This is an example of how to set up secure print release in Toshiba's Elevate Sky Print Management on a Toshiba copier. So here's the copier that we are going to set up. And I'm going to minimize that for a moment. Here's our client that we'll be using to print. I only have a cloud queue in here now. Soon we'll have a secure release. And I will also set up a clone of that secure release that doesn't require a password and jobs just roll out of the copier. We'll do that before we're done as well. This is the Elevate Sky Print Management portal. Here's our tree view of all of our different properties, regions, locations. And I'm going to be placing this copier in the Indie demo room. Couple quick notes here. I want to point out this knowledge base. Everything that I'm doing in this video is based on the most recent manuals, but you can find the most recent manuals and a lot of excellent articles on how to set up various things here in this knowledge base. The full manuals are right up here in the document area. That's where you should always go for the latest information. And client downloads. This client that I've got loaded is right here in the portal, and you can download it from here to keep yourself current. Okay, let's get started. I go to my MFD network and MFD list. I want to add a new copier. But before I get started, there's a couple things that we can check that could keep us out of trouble, especially if the copier has been in place and being used for other purposes for a period of time before we set up Elevate Sky Print Management. So let's log on to Top Access and just check a couple of things that could potentially give us trouble during the install. First off, if there are jobs waiting to be released in the copier, we want to either get them released or delete them out of the copier. So if I go to job status and print jobs, there's no jobs there. Private print job. Oh, there's private print jobs in here. So we're going to delete all of those out and clean those out of there. If there were any jobs in job status, we'd want to clean those out. Maybe they were waiting for a particular paper to be loaded or something. Same way for hold. We just want to make sure there's no jobs that are going to hold us up during the installation because it's an automated process. A couple other things that we should check down here in administration and setup. Going to general, we want to make sure we have time servers on. We want our time to be spot on. And the best way to accomplish that is to have time servers. And of course, if you're using names, you're going to need good DNS as well. But you always want to enable time servers for this. To authenticate to a cloud service, you really need spot on time. And lastly, if I go to setup and network, this isn't absolutely necessary. We can always set things up manually, but there's an automated setup process, and that relies on SNMP being enabled and a community name of public. So we want to make sure that all of that is set before we get started, and things will just go smoother. So I'm going to go ahead and log out. I'm going to come back to Elevate Sky Print Management, or ESPM, and we'll go to Add MFD. And I want to point out that I am using Chrome. Chrome and an extension in Chrome are going to be important to this process. So we're going to go to Device Radar. Now, if I didn't have Device Radar already loaded on this machine, I could download it, install it here, but it comes with this client. So if the client's installed, you're good to go. Excuse me. I could use automatic scan and scan the network, but I know the IP address. I'm only setting up one copier for my purposes. I'm going to go with manual. Device radar finds it, and it's found one, it's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and click the green button in the upper right. I'm going to drop this down so I can see all the details, and I'm going to turn on advanced options as well. So let's zoom out just a little bit so I can see a little better. There we go. If I come in here, I can change the name, and I'm going to name this A3525 AC ND, and I'm going to add an SR at the end, just an indication that this is a secure release printer, but it's just a name. I'm going to put it in the appropriate room. It's in the ND demo room, so that was the first one selected, but all of our locations are in here. Place it in the room so it'll show up in the tree where it should. No policy is needed for secure release on a Toshiba copier, and we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and press my green button in the upper right, and I'll move on to provision MFDs. Okay, now I can provision multiple copiers at a time, but they would have to have the same password. So, and I'm only doing one as it is right now, but these credentials will be used in the auto provisioning process to set up the copier. So you could do multiple at the same time if they have the same password. Otherwise, it's one at a time. We're going to say save and provision. Now, this is the step that requires the Chrome extension. It's the MFD auto provisioning Chrome extension. If you're come to this page and you don't have it loaded, there's a link for you to install it. It takes a minute, and then you can move forward. So we're going to go for non-MDS mode. And the difference between non-MDS and MDS, briefly, and I've got another video on this that I will share in the description. But if we look at the copier, in non-MDS mode, when we're done, we'll still be able to use the copier without logging in. We can make copies, send a fax, scan, whatever. We'll need to log in to release a secure release print job. But outside of that, the copier will be free to use. In full MDS mode, the entire copier is locked down, so you have to log in to even make a copy. And like I said, I'll put a link in the description to a video that shows the difference between those two, as well as the difference between cloud queues and secure release. But we're going to move forward with non-MDS mode. I'll click Start. I'm going to launch my log so I can see what's happening in the automated process, the last of which is rebooting the device. Now, a full reboot takes about 3 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video and come back and finish after the copier has finished rebooting. Okay, the copier is finished rebooting. We're going to go back to the MFD list, and we see that I have a copier that is pending sync. Now, the reason for that is for the provisioning to finish, the copier has to reach out to the cloud and start the communication, not the other way around. So we have to launch the app on the copier. So I will just pull up the interface using VNC. We see that we now have our icon for Elevate Sky Print Management. I'm going to launch that once. And now that I have, you'll see that the syncing provisioning is now gone, and we have a green checkbox. So the machine is provisioned, but we still have a little bit more work to do. The first step is to configure the hardware for the MFD. So here's our new copier that was just provisioned. We're going to click on the gear here on the far end. And for instance, I've installed a card reader, so we have to check this box for it to recognize that card reader. Also, when the copier hardware can staple or hole punch, we need to check these. This is related to setting finishing at the time of release of a cloud queue job. Once again, we'll talk more about that in another video that is linked in the description. But this is what needs to be configured for cloud queue job finishing. We'll show you how to set up finishing for secure release here in a second. Click save on that. And now we need to return to the MFD list. Now we need to set up the printer overrides. So in our printer override section, we can force duplex, for instance. We can, if this is a color printer, so I'm going to leave it a color printer, but if this was a black and white printer, we would set up for mono printer, force all jobs to print mono. And this just removes the option at the time of release on a cloud queue job to even print color. So it kind of cleans up that screen, but we'll leave it where it is for this copier. And now we need to apply a config, also known as a tweak, to the printer itself. So now I've left the MFD area and I'm on the printer side in the printer list. Here's my printer. When I click this checkbox, you're going to notice some icons appear up here. So we've got this set of icons. I can delete the printer from here. I can copy all the quick codes. I can apply a config, which is what we're going to do. And then we also have the ability to copy the configuration of one printer to the rest of the printers. For instance, like to copy over the finishing, set it up once and then copy it to the rest of them. But we're going to apply a config, which is known as a tweak. And I'm going to, you can type in a manufacturer's name, any like this, and see tweaks for different manufacturers. I'm going to type in Toshiba, and I want this enable secure pen release for a Toshiba. This is the correct one, this R1 for this copier. I'm going to select that and apply that tweak. Now, what that's done is it's set secure release to force on this copier. So if I send a secure release job, I'm going to have to type in a pin at login to release that job. So now, as a last step on this, I want to set up the finishing. So once again, I'm going to go to Edit on my new copier. And I'm going to go to Advanced Config. Now, here's that Enable Secure Pen Release that's set to force. That came when I set up, when I applied that tweak. And now my finishing is set up. That was part of the original device radar. And but it's all set to exclude, so the end user can't get to it at this point. It's been excluded from their interface. So we want to delegate that to the end user. We're going to get page size. We'll give them input slots so they can decide which drawer they want to pull from, media type, so they can select thick paper, etc. They can turn on duplex themselves. And finishing, they can select their destination. There's a couple different trays for destination. They can hole punch their jobs. They can staple their jobs. Now, if they have a booklet finisher, you're going to want to delegate folding, as well as down here in booklet, you would want to delegate these as well if they've got a full booklet making finisher. All right. So we set up the finishing options that we want our end users to be able to select on their own, and we'll update that printer. Now, let's do some testing to see if we can log on to the copier. Here's my Elevate Sky client. On the Config tab to the far right is where you can find your MFD user ID and your MFD password. So if you ever forget your MFD user ID or your MFD password, they're right here on the Config tab of the client. I go back in to this. And we're going to log on. All right, we're logged on. This is my printer icon. If I had print jobs to release, that's where I would go. This home button will take me back to the main copier menu. All right, so now let's test my card reader. Card reader's working as well. So now let's test printing. I don't have the printer yet, so I have to allocate that printer to the end user. We are using internal directory today. So I'm going to go to group management. I'm a member of this ND test group. So I'm going to add a printer to this test group, my new 3525 AC ND secure release. So now anybody in this group, once I click save, they will receive that printer themselves at the next refresh. And this refreshes frequently on its own. But if you want to force the refresh, you have the circle button right here. We'll press that, and now I've got my new printer. So I will go to a Word document, and we'll say print. We'll drop this down, and there, right on top, is my new printer. Send that job over. We'll go back to our copier. We'll log in. And you notice I have a 1 on my printer now because I have one job available for release. I can select it, and then here at the bottom, I've got a printer button that I can touch. I will, and my job is released. All right, now I want to go back to my home screen, so I'm going to press that home button. And now we're going to set up a clone of this that allows print jobs to just roll out, and it will not be secure release, and I can have both existing at the same time. So let's go take a look at how to do that. So back in the interface, I'm going to go to my printer list. Here's my new printer. And on the far right, under these 3 dots, I'm going to clone this printer. So I'll click clone one time, so everything about it will come over, and I'll have a new version with a new name. I want to change that name in a couple of ways. I'm going to, of course, get rid of the SR on the end. And I'm going to get rid of my copy of. Now, I should be unchecking this. Is this an MFD? I'm going to leave it checked for a moment because I want to show you what happens if I forget to do that bit. And I will update my printer. I want to go back in though. Notice it says start provisioning. I want to go back in and edit this further. This is important. The advanced config, remember our secure release forced this enable pen release, where we're going to turn around and exclude that because this is going to be a free to print to printer. All right. And we'll update the printer. Now we have 2. But let's take a look at the MFD list real quick. See, we've got this start provisioning on this, and that's because it thinks this is an MFD, and it's in the MFD list. It just hasn't been provisioned yet. So now I'm going to edit that MFD. I'm going to uncheck this and update, which takes me back to the printer list, but I want to look at the MFD list. And you'll notice it's gone because it's no longer an MFD, so it's not going to be in this list saying start provisioning or pending sync or any of that. But in my printer list, I have 2 versions. I've got my secure release version and I've got my paper just rolls out version. So let's go ahead and allocate that to this user as well. I'll go back to my group management. Here's my new one that is not secure release. I'll click Save Changes. And if I look at my client, do a refresh, I've got both printers now. So let's print again twice. This first one, I'll go ahead and send to my secure release again. That'll be delivered to the copier and I'll wait there until I log on to release it. And I will print to my new one that does not have the SR, which is just a name, but it's an indication of which is which. And I'm going to print to this one and paper should just roll out. I can see it sending down here in the bottom right-hand corner, and there it is. The job is rolling out right now. I can look at my activity logs. And see that that job just printed. Now I'm going to log on and release my secure release job. That's my printer icon at the bottom. Refresh this. And we see my secure release job. So there you have it. How to set up secure release, things to look for in a pre-check, that device radar requires SNMP with community name of public. If you need something else, you can always change it back to the something else afterwards and everything will continue to work. But device radar needs it, the community name of public. Having good time servers, clearing out your job status. We provisioned and set up for secure release. We did our finishing. We applied a tweak. We cloned the device, unchecked the MFD, and set up a paper just rolls out version of the same copier. Thank you.